to another episode of KVTv. Yes. Happy Sunday to everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day with their family and friends. And today is going to be a good day. So, I'm not sure who watched my video yesterday, but I let you guys know that today I'm going to be talking about The Lion King in a different way that I'm pretty sure none of you have ever thought about it. So I'm pretty sure you guys remember last week I had a word of encouragement for you guys to be yourself. Well, today I have another word of encouragement for you guys. And I'm going to use The Lion King to tell the story. And my word of encouragement to you guys is called Take Your Place as King. Now, I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm gonna go ahead and get straight into the video. Let's do it. Now, I'm pretty sure we all know how iconic the beginning is. Like, just from the sun rising to all the animals just flooding to Pride Rock, just to see the new king, just to see the new heir. And I'm gonna explain something to you guys that you probably never thought about. So, in a sense, The Lion King is almost a biblical story. And this is almost as God giving his son to the world. So picture Mufasa as God, okay? And then picture Simba as Jesus for a second. And then think of Rafiki as John the Baptist. And I'm gonna explain something to you. So when God had got baptized, that was him being anointed for his calling. And let me show you something. So Rafiki, when he had took I don't know what it is, but when he took, you know what I'm talking about, he had broke it. And he was in a sense, he's a prophet. And what he was doing was, he was anointing the next king. And when he showed Simba to the world, that was God shining his light upon him, letting him know that his destiny was already predestined for him to be king. And for a lot of us, we were already predestined to be kings. Like I said last week, we are all kings and queens in the kingdom of God. Remember when I said that? Now pay attention, guys. Now watch this. Now I'm just gonna fast forward just a little. So when Mufasa was doing his morning lesson with Simba, he let him know. He said, Simba, he said, one day, he said, pay attention to the sun. He said, the sun rises and sets. He said, a king's time is ruler, rises and falls like the sun. And he said, one day the sun is going to set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king. Now I'm going to take this in a different way. All right, pay attention. Mufasa was already letting him know that he was going to die. And in a sense, and then Simba will be the new king. But here's the thing, Mufasa didn't know that he was getting ready to die right then and there, but he knew it was gonna come a time where he did. And even though Simba was a child, he didn't understand, but he knew he was gonna be king. He just didn't understand everything. But there was also a problem. You see, Scar, in a sense, he's like, in a sense, it was like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Cain and Abel. I want you to remember that story for a second. In the Bible, there's a story about Cain and Abel in the book of Genesis. And I can't remember which brother is which, but I do know that one brother was jealous of the other because of the gift that one had gave the guy, and one gift was better than the other. But that's not necessarily actual thing of the Lion King. But in this sense, Scar was jealous of his brother, and he wanted to take him out. Now, in the story of Cain and Abel, the reason why when the one brother was jealous, he wanted to take him out. Now, I'm going to add this in there. So, when Scar wanted to take Mufasa out, he also had to take out the heir. Because he knew that if Simba was to tap in to what he knew he had, that he would be in trouble. Bet y'all didn't even think about that, huh? And so when you seen everything as far as, I call this the devil's plan. He had a plan. He thought he had a plan to destroy the king and take out his heir. But here's the thing, and here's another thing I want to say. So when it comes to children, they don't necessarily understand everything when it's first brought up to them. But they're just excited. Like, he was just excited to be king. Someone was just excited to be king, He didn't understand everything that he carried, but he was just excited to be king. Yeah, he just excited to be king, And here's the thing. So when his father had died, because he felt like it was his fault. And the only reason why he felt like it was his fault is because he was deceived into believing that it was his fault. See, in life, a lot of things that we go through, some of it is not our fault, but we make it feel like it is. And so you know what we do? We run. And that's exactly what Simba did. He ran into the wilderness. So when Simba was out in the wilderness, he had found comforters in the wilderness. And those comforters were Timon and Pumbaa. And see, they were just letting him know that, bad things happen and there's nothing you can do about it. But in also another sense, Timon and Pumbaa were unbelievers. And I'm going to explain why. So, I'm pretty sure you guys remember when they were sitting under the stars, right? And they all gave their little perspective on what they thought was under the stars. And Simba remembered what his father told him about the great kings of the past looking down on us from those stars. So whenever he feels alone, those kings will always be there to guide him, and so will he. But Simba didn't really realize that. But he remembered. And when he remembered, he told them. And you know what they did? They did what most non-believers do. They laughed. They laughed at him. And so when they laughed at him, it made him feel like, well, maybe what I was taught, maybe it wasn't true, Because in the live action film, they low-key explained it a little bit about Simba was saying about the circle of life. And then Timon and Pumbaa were talking about the meaningless line of indifference. So basically, in that sense, those are two people. So that basically, he was outnumbered because of what they believed was not true. But what Simba believed was the truth. But since he was outnumbered, he felt like maybe it wasn't true. Make sense? So that's the thing. We gotta make sure we keep our faith, especially in God. Like, sometimes we might get discouraged and we might believe that maybe God didn't call us. You understand what I mean? But you have to keep your faith. Do not let your faith be shaken. You have to keep your faith. Now, when his faith was shaken, I don't think he realized what he had did. So when his faith was shaken, I believe just a little bit, when he had went off into onto the edge, and it looked like he was depressed, I believe just a little bit that he had tapped in and he didn't realize it. Because you had saw his hair go off into into the air. And who was to find it? The prophet, Rafiki. And when Rafiki found it, when Rafiki found the hair, he immediately got excited. You know why? Because the rightful king is alive. And even though Simba didn't know it, Rafiki, being a prophet, knew it. And so he said, it is time. Because what you guys don't realize is that the Pride Lands were in a famine for about, I'd probably say about 3 to 5 years. About 3 to 5 years. And the reason why I say that is because they make it seem as Simba just grew up in like 3 days. No, it was about 3 or 5 years, guys. And in those 3 to 5 years, Scar was the king, and Scar had the whole world in a famine. And I want you to think about this. Think about the story of Moses for a second. Remember how Moses, he had ran off into the wilderness because he felt guilty about what happened to him. And so he was gone for a while. I mean, he found comfort in his wife, and don't remember the dude's name. I don't remember the wife's father's name right now. Forgive me. But yeah, so if you pay attention to those key points, it's very biblical in a sense when you think about the Lion King. And Simba, he ran off because he felt guilty. But it was something that he had no control over. He didn't do it. It wasn't his fault. But just like it wasn't Moses' fault, he was trying to help somebody. He was trying to help somebody. He was trying to do what was right. But in a sense, Simba, he just didn't know that it wasn't his fault. But Scar made it believe he was his fault. That was the difference. So, while Simba was in the wilderness, at some point in time, he came across his old friend, Nala. Now, let me explain something to you guys about Nala. She didn't realize that when she was going to find help, that she was going to find the king. And let me explain something to you guys. Sometimes in life, all we have to do is do what God tells us to do, and you'll find something that you didn't think you'll find. So I'm not sure if anybody remembers the live action one where she actually was like, I'm about to go find help. In a sense, it was almost like as if, like, in that sense, the great kings of the past was telling her to go find help. She didn't know what she was going to find, but she was just going to run and go find help. But she didn't realize that she was going to find the king. And when she came across the king, she let Simba know, Simba, you have to take your place as king, because Scar is not the rightful king. And Simba did what a lot of us do. He ignored his call. And he said, he said, Nala, I'm not the king. He said, Scar is. But see, what Simba's biggest issue was, he was still dealing with the guilt. He was still dealing with guilt. He felt like, I'm not worthy of the throne. And so that's why he rejected his call. And he got angry, and he rejected his best friend. Now, Nala, she did her job. And this is when the prophet, Rafiki, comes back. And when Rafiki sees him, he's all jolly and stuff. Well, what Simba doesn't realize is he's about to give him a word from the Lord. In a sense, he's about to get a word from the Lord. And he said, Simba, you don't even know who you are. And Simba says, oh, so I suppose you do. And what did he say? He said, you're Mufasa's boy. In a sense, he was telling him that you're God's child. Let me tell you something about prophets. So a prophet's job is not to tell you the future. The prophet's job is to put you back on track. They give you a word from the Lord so that way you can put your life back on track. And if you actually pay attention to what the prophet will tell you, then you will honestly be okay, and just do what you're supposed to do in the Lord. So he had caught Simba's attention, and so what did he do? He took him to the water, and when he went to the water, he told Simba. He said, "Now look down in the water. What do you see?" And Simba said, "I just see my reflection." And Rafiki told him to look again. And when Simba looked again, he saw his father. And Rafiki told him, he said, "You see, he lives in you." And so that's when Simba, he finally realized who he was, but not just yet. He tapped into what he had. And then that's when Mufasa came from the clouds. And he said, "Simba, you have forgotten me." And then he said, "No, how could I?" And then this is what you guys got to understand. Mufasa said, "You have forgotten who you are. So that means you have forgotten me." See, here's the thing, guys. When you forget who you are in God, when you forget who you are in God, that means you have forgotten him. I'm gonna let this sink in for a second. Now, Simba, he finally remembered who he was. And he got the confidence back. And he decided to go back to the rock. He went back to Pride Rock. And here's the thing I want you guys to understand. Remember when I told you that Timon and Pumbaa are unbelievers? So, when Nala had told them where he was going, they had said, "Oh." And if you do, guys, pay attention. They did create some type of bond. Even though they didn't believe the same things, they created a bond between each other that was pretty much unbreakable. That was his best friend. So, even though sometimes in life, like for instance, let's say if you have a group of friends, you're the believer out the group and you're the believer, and then your friends are non-believers. And sometimes all you have to do is just walk by faith. As long as you're walking in what God had called you to be, people will follow you. And even though Timon and Pumbaa did not understand everything that was going on, they knew that was something there. They knew there was something there. And so what did they do? They followed him. And they said to Simba, they said, "Well, if it's important to you, we are with you till the end." Now, how many people know that when you actually accept your call, that sometimes the devil will still try to make you feel like you're unworthy? And he'll do things like bring up your past. So let me show you. So, when Scar saw Simba, he immediately got scared. And for a minute, he had him back. And for a minute, Simba had him backed up in the corner. And let me show you how the enemy works. When you have the enemy backed up in a corner, he'll start to improvise. He's like, "What can I do to throw you off?" And so he did what he normally does. He'll bring up your past, who you used to be. And he said, "I would hate to be the cause of a death of a family member, wouldn't you, Simba?" And Simba said, "That's not gonna work, Scar, because I put it behind me." And then, here's the thing, he stood his ground for a minute. But then, that's when the enemy, being Scar, he dug up just a little bit deeper. He said, "Oh, but what about your faithful servants? Have they put it behind them?" And that's when he got shook, because they didn't know about what really went down. They still didn't know what really went down. But what we do know is that it wasn't Simba's fault. But Simba didn't realize that still. He just he still felt like it was his fault. And so he admitted to something that he didn't even do. And it was something about his mother even though they didn't disclose this information, she knew deep in her heart that he did not kill Mufasa. She knew it because she said, it's not true. Tell me it's not true. And he said, it's true. But in a sense, she did not believe it. And honestly, none of the lions believed it. If you pay attention, none of the lions believed it. And so Scar, he thought he had him backed up in a corner. Here's the thing, when the enemy thinks he got you down, he'll probably make a mistake and give you just a little bit too much information before you fall. And he messed up when he let him know that he killed his father. Because then everything that he had went through made sense. And he quickly tapped into who he was. And he made the enemy confess what really happened. And then the battle between the lion and the hyenas, all that really was just a battle of trial and tribulations. And what we call in our church, we call it warfare. That was nothing but warfare. Everything that he had literally just dodged for years, everything that he just put behind him and didn't face, he was literally battling all that in one night. But in the end, he came out on top, and he was the rightful king. Now, I said all that to say, in life, sometimes we might do something that we feel makes us unworthy. Or there's some things that happen to us that are out of our control, and it's not our fault. But we'll feel like we're unworthy, so we'll reject God's call. And a lot of you guys watching my video right now have a calling on your life that you're rejecting because you feel like you won't be accepted, for one, and you feel like you're not worthy. Well, let me tell you something, guys. Once you are called from the beginning, like Simba was, he was anointed for this from the beginning. So it didn't matter what the enemy was going to try to do, because in the end, he was still going to be king. See, the Lord has a plan for a lot of you guys' life, and the enemy does not want to see you prevail. I'm going to let you know that right now. He doesn't want to see you prevail. But you have to tap into what God has given you, and you have to remember who you are, especially in God. And you have to take your place as king. Whatever your calling is, you have to take your place. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope what I said really just helped somebody. And it just makes, and this is why The Lion King was my favorite movie, because it just had so many biblical points in it. If you pay attention, it's such a beautiful story. And I'm gonna end with this. So for us I don't have kids, but for people who have kids, I'm gonna drop this on you guys. So right now, if you have a kid, let's say you're the king, and your child is your prince. And one day, the sun will set on your time and will rise on your son or daughter as a new king and queen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the circle of life. Yes, that, I don't know about y'all, but that just blessed me so much. And I'm just so glad that I know who I am. I'm not sure if you don't know who you are in God or anything, you need to pray and just talk to God and the Bible says, make your calling and election sure. You have to know who you are, guys, and you have to make it plain. And here's the thing, when you actually walk in your call, nothing's going to stop you, guys, because God's going to be with you. So whatever you guys are going through, I don't know everybody's story, but whatever you guys are going through, whether it be anything, just know that God's with you and that you don't have to be afraid to accept your call, but you have to trust God and tap into what you have. Now, I'm not going to tear you on this for too long because I could literally sit here and talk about this all day. But I literally just wanted to literally bless you guys with that. That was my word of encouragement for the day. That everybody take your place as king. And I'm telling you, you will prevail in the end. Now, I don't have an impression for today, but I thank you guys for watching KVTv. And if you like this video, I hope that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Well, hold on, cut the music. So I'm not posting on Instagram anymore. All my videos are going to be on YouTube from now on. So I might post like a little teaser on Instagram, but I'm not going to be posting my whole videos on Instagram anymore. They're all going to be on YouTube. Yeah. Cue the music. So, yep, this is the end of today's video. I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that you follow me on Instagram at KVMcKinley and my impersonations page at KVTv__. And also follow me on Snapchat at KV42. Peace.